Do 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 do. Hello, and welcome to the Unlimited Creation Show with Cal Barnes. I'm your host, Cal Barnes, and today we are going to explore what it would be like if you own just 1% of Obsession. This continues our series on how film financing works. Dun dun dun. My epic English accent aside, I want to do a show today on breaking down what it would be like if an investor owned just 1% of Obsession using the film equity structure we're using and the film knowledge that I have. Again, these are not exact numbers and these are completely hypothetical. I do not have the books for Obsession. This is just using my basic knowledge of how film waterfalls work, that is going down from the exhibitor through the distributor to the production company. There's obviously many variables within this in terms of SAG residuals, deferments, debt, etc. But I just want to do a basic breakdown to show how much money can possibly be made in independent film when a film is a absolute banger hit. Also, disclosure, this is a complete outlier. This is not normal, and even very successful films usually do not reach this level of epic proportion. But if you happen to be an investor on this movie, you would have a very good year and a piece of equity that would be paying you in perpetuity. Again, this is just off the box office, and this doesn't include first window streaming, second window streaming. First window streaming is TVOD, which is transactional video on demand, such as paying per view on Amazon. Then you have second window, which is SVOD, which is subscription on demand, which would be Netflix, Apple Plus, Amazon Prime, Peacock, etc. And then you have third tier windows, which is AVOD, which is advertising-based video on demand, such as TUBI, Pluto, etc., where it is free to viewers when you watch ads. Also not including physical media, such as DVDs and Blu-rays. I have a feeling this film is going to do very well in physical media because it is a zeitgeist hit and will be, I think, for fans, a collectible item, and they're going to want to have physical media. So just like this film did exceptionally well in the box office, I think it is going to do exceptionally well in physical media. That said, based off the box office, this is what it would be like if you own just 1% or 1 point in Obsession. To start, of that $400 million, the exhibitors are going to take roughly 50%. So $200 million off the top. That leaves $200 million of profit that is going back to the distributor. The distributor, which in this case is Focus Features, paid a $15 million minimum guarantee to the producers and production company that owned Obsession. Remember, from my previous episode, How Film Financing Works, a minimum guarantee is an advance against sales. So they paid $15 million. I had to put this down on paper here. From the $200 million that went into the distributor, they're going to recoup the $15 million minimum guarantee. Plus, I'm guessing here, this could be way off. By the way, I have no idea. It could be literally tens of millions of dollars, more or less than this number. But I'm guessing about $20 million in prints and advertising. So the distributor is going to recoup the $15 million minimum guarantee, their $20 million in prints and advertising, my guesstimate, and their distribution fee. So from that $200 million minus that $35 million in recoupables, that leaves $165 million of profit. So of that $165 million of pure profit, their distribution fee, and again, I'm just guesstimating here what Focus Features distribution fee would be. It could be more or less, but I'm going to guess 30%. And to keep the math easy, I'm going to say of that 165, that their distribution fee is $50 million. So of that $200 million that came into the distributor, they recouped $15 million for the minimum guarantee, $20 million for prints and advertising, and $50 million of their distribution fee, which totals $85 million to the distributor. Out of that $200 million minus the distributor's $85 from recoupables and their fee, that leaves $115 million that is going to the production company, which is going to the points holders or equity stakeholders in the company. That would be the investors, the producers, the production company, and the lead creative team, most likely, however those would be divided up. So that's $150 million to the company, plus the original $15 million advance. So $150 million plus the $15 million minimum guarantee is $130 million of profit to the producers and production company of Obsession on a $750,000 film. That is wild. That said, remember, there's 100 points of equity in a movie. 50% is typically held by the investors, and 50% is typically held by the producers, the production company, the writer-director, and the other lead creative teams who have profit participation. I do not know what those numbers are for Obsession. I'm just telling you what is typical on a typical film equity structure. Basically, the people that own the points in the film are the investors who took the most risk, and then also the filmmakers who took a lot of risk by making the film, because if it doesn't hit, they are going to go into debt, and there is a good chance that they won't be able to make another film, and if they do, it's not going to be as easy. So 130 million divided by 100, which is 100 points, is 1.3 million for a 1% ownership in Obsession, based off of my math. Again, this number is completely hypothetical. This is just to keep the math really simple and give you guys a look at what it could be like to have ownership in this film. So $1.3 million for a profit participant that owns 1% of Obsession if truly $130 million was coming back to the company. Here's the really crazy part. If Obsession used the same equity structure that I'm using to structure my film, The Influencer House Massacre, and I'm sure it is because there's only 100 points in a film, from everything I know, if it was pure equity, they likely sold 50 of those points. Remember, the budget was $750,000. $750,000 divided by 50 is $15,000. If you're an investor, if you bought 1% or 1 point in Obsession for $15,000 using this math, and if the film made $130 million back to the production company, you would have profited off that $15,000 $1.3 million. That is an 87x return. That's what it could look like if you owned 1% of Obsession. And again, I just want to reiterate, this is all hypothetical. This is just using my knowledge of film finance, film box office gross, waterfalls, and equity structure. In terms of investing in horror film, the odds that another film will do what Obsession did are very, very rare. Obsession was the first film to really blow up like this, to my knowledge, for a very low budget since Paranormal Activity. The most famous horror film example that really blew up previously was the found footage horror film The Blair Witch Project in the early 2000s. Obsession is, to my knowledge, the most popular horror film that has really broken out in the zeitgeist in terms of really captivating the public eye since the Blair Witch Project. That is about a 20-year gap, and I guarantee you, with enough time, as long as cinema is going, a film or a project like Obsession will happen again. That said, a film doesn't have to be Obsession or the Blair Witch Project to be extremely, extremely profitable. With this math, even if this film did a quarter of this, that would be insanely, insanely profitable. That would still bring $15,000 investment for 1% down to just over $250,000, about $300,000. In fact, it could even have done a sixth of that and would still be considered a success. With a budget of $750,000, it doesn't really have to do that much to be successful, but it is truly awesome when a film blows up like this. And I'm so excited for Curry Barker and the producers and the actors and the rocket ship that they are all going on with this movie. It's awesome, and it's what any of us moving here would hope to be a part of. I think what's exciting about horror film is it's not just the money that people are getting. Imagine being a part of a film like that. I mean, the excitement on any capacity. It's so fun to be a part of film. I've been a part of a lot of films, many, 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 many times smaller than Obsession in terms of its success, but it's so much fun. What I love about low budget horror is it's a chance where literally anybody can invest and be a part of something that is extremely successful and in its best form culturally significant. I just think about the people that invested in Obsession. For just $15,000 a share, they are a part of the #1 film in Hollywood this year and potentially the most successful film since COVID. I don't know all the exact math, but it is definitely the most successful film this year in terms of ROI and potentially the most successful film in terms of ROI for I don't even know how long, definitely since 2019 and possibly long before then. It's so cool because the studio system and huge budget movies, they are pretty much closed off. That's all private money, that's all company money, and the chance for a working class person, those opportunities to invest and be a part of those movies are almost non-existent. That's what I love about the low-budget horror independent film space, is it's accessible to working class people that for just a nominal investment, owning 1% of a movie, they can be a part of something that is not only extremely successful, but can really hit the cultural zeitgeist. And that, I think, is just so cool. It's a very exciting time to be an independent filmmaker, and that's what I love so much about what we're doing and why investors are approaching us, is because they see the opportunity. For 9.5K, they could own 1% of the Influencer House massacre. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of How Film Financing Works on the Unlimited Creation Show with Cal Barnes. Remember to subscribe on YouTube and Spotify for more weekly content. And until then, have fun out there and remember to invest in independent film.